Captain Susan Wright stood at the command center of the Earth Alliance starship Defiance, her gaze fixed on the massive alien vessel that dwarfed her own. The Crixian flagship gleamed like polished obsidian against the star field, its strange curves and angles unlike anything humans had designed. "They're hailing us again, Captain," said Communications Officer Paul Reed, his voice steady despite the tension that filled the bridge. Susan took a deep breath. This meeting would mark humanity's first official diplomatic contact with the Crixian Empire, an ancient civilization that had observed Earth from afar for decades before finally acknowledging the young species as worthy of conversation. "On screen," she ordered. The alien face that appeared made several crew members flinch. "Hi." Commander Vexler had gray skin pulled tight across a skull-like face. 6 yellow eyes blinked in an unsettling pattern. When he spoke, his translator converted the clicking sounds into English with only a slight delay. "Captain Wright, the Supreme Council awaits your delegation. You may bring 5 representatives, no more." Susan nodded. "We look forward to peaceful discussions, High Commander." The screen went dark and Susan turned to her team. "Lieutenant Hoffman, Dr. Alvarez, Diplomat Barnes, Science Officer Kim, you're with me. Commander Jackson, you have the bridge." As they prepared to board the shuttle, Lieutenant Gregory Hoffman approached the captain. He was young, but promising, recently promoted after his quick thinking saved a colony from an asteroid collision. "Captain, intel suggests the Crixians value strength above all else," he said quietly. "If we appear too eager to please, they might see it as weakness." Susan considered his words. "Noted, Lieutenant, but our mission is peace. Let's not mistake diplomacy for weakness." The shuttle journey to the enormous Crixian vessel was silent, each human lost in thought about the historic meeting ahead. When they docked, 2 tall Crixian guards met them. The aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in what looked like natural armor plates. "Follow," one guard commanded, the universal translator in their ears converting the harsh syllables. The humans were led through corridors that seemed to pulse with faint light. The air felt thick and smelled like ozone. After walking for what seemed like miles, they entered a vast chamber where 7 Crixians sat on elevated platforms. High Commander Vexelor spoke first. "The Supreme Council recognizes the human delegation. You may present your case for formal relations." Susan stepped forward. "On behalf of the Earth Alliance, we extend friendship to the Crixian Empire. Despite our differences, we believe our civilizations can learn from each other and grow together. We bring offerings of knowledge and resources, hoping to establish trade and cultural exchange." The Crixians listened without expression. When Susan finished, there was a long silence before one of the council members leaned forward. "Your species is young, barely space-capable for a century. What value could you possibly offer an empire that has ruled the stars for millennia?" Diplomat Barnes moved to respond, but Lieutenant Hoffman stepped forward instead. "With respect, council member, sometimes fresh eyes see what ancient ones miss. Our young civilization has solved problems your scientists still struggle with, like artificial gravity generation and quantum communication." A murmur rippled through the council. Susan shot Hoffman a warning glance, but the damage was done. "Bold words," Vexelor said. His multiple eyes narrowed. "Perhaps a demonstration of your respect for our ancient ways would show us your worth." The tallest council member descended from the platform. "The ritual of acknowledgement is appropriate. Your representative must complete it." Before Susan could intervene, Hoffman volunteered. "I'll do it, Captain. Let me show them humans can adapt to their customs." The ritual seemed simple enough at first. Hoffman was instructed to approach an altar in the center of the room and place his hand on a glowing orb. But when the orb changed color from blue to red, the Crixians hissed in what sounded like shock. "He has rejected the blessing of ages," one council member exclaimed. "This is sacrilege." Susan stepped forward quickly. "There must be a misunderstanding. Lieutenant Hoffman meant no disrespect." "The orb does not misunderstand," Vexler said coldly. "It reads intent. Your officer's thoughts were filled with pride and challenge, not humility." This confirms what we suspected about humans. The meeting deteriorated rapidly after that. Despite Susan and Diplomat Barnes's best efforts to salvage the situation, the council ended the session abruptly and ordered the humans to return to their ship. Back on the Defiance, Susan confronted Hoffman. "What happened out there, Lieutenant?" Hoffman looked genuinely confused. "Captain, I swear I was thinking about respecting their culture, but I also thought about how humans deserve equal standing, not to be treated as inferiors. Could the orb have read that as pride?" "Whatever it read, you've set back our diplomatic efforts considerably," Susan said, rubbing her temples. "We'll need to work twice as hard now to establish trust." Over the next 3 months, the Earth Alliance sent message after message, attempting to reopen negotiations. The Crixians responded with increasingly cold diplomatic notes, referencing the regrettable human arrogance and suggesting that perhaps humans needed more time to mature as a species. Then, without warning, all communication ceased. "It's been 2 weeks without any response," Susan reported to Admiral Frank Clayton via secure channel. The Admiral's weathered face showed deep concern. "We've detected unusual movement in their fleet," he said. "Several warships have changed position, but our analysts can't determine their purpose yet." Susan felt a chill. "Sir, should we be concerned?" "Not yet, Captain, but keep the Defiance at yellow alert. Something doesn't feel right." 3 days later, the colony of New Eden went dark. New Eden was Earth's furthest outpost, home to 5,000 colonists who worked the rich mineral deposits of the planet. When all communications suddenly stopped, the nearest patrol ship, the Valiant, was dispatched to investigate. The footage they sent back horrified everyone who saw it. New Eden had been reduced to smoldering craters, buildings, infrastructure, even the surrounding forests, all vaporized by weapons of terrifying power. As search teams combed through the devastation, they found only one survivor. Communications Officer Allison Murphy, who had been working in a deep underground facility when the attack came. She had managed to record the entire assault and escaped in a maintenance shuttle. The footage showed Crixian warships descending without warning, firing energy weapons that cut through the colony's defenses like they were paper. A message had boomed across all frequencies moments before the attack. "This territory is now reclaimed by the Crixian Empire under the doctrine of ancestral right." In the emergency session of Earth's Security Council, Murphy's footage played on the main screen. When it ended, there was dead silence. Admiral Frank Clayton, who had lost his family in the border wars 20 years earlier, slowly stood. His face was like stone, but his eyes burned with cold fury. For centuries, humanity sought peaceful contact with other civilizations, he said quietly. "We extended our hand in friendship to the Crixians. This is their answer." He looked at each council member in turn. "They believe us weak because we value peace. They believe us primitive because we show restraint. They've made a fatal error in judgment." Clayton's fist came down on the table with such force that water glasses jumped. "You want war?" he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "We'll deliver you a war, and we will show the Crixian Empire exactly what happens when you awaken a sleeping giant." The council room erupted in shouts of agreement. As the uproar continued, no one noticed Murphy in the corner, clutching a small, hollow picture of her friends from New Eden, tears streaming down her face. The war had begun. Dr. Olivia Martinez hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her laboratory, once dedicated to clean energy research, now hummed with military personnel and urgent voices. 6 months had passed since the destruction of New Eden Colony, and Earth had transformed itself for war. Olivia stared at the holographic model floating before her. The blue particles swirled and connected in new patterns as she adjusted variables with quick hand gestures. "Run Simulation Series 47 again," she told her assistant Keith. Keith looked concerned. "Dr. Martinez, you should rest. You can barely stand." "I'll rest when we have a defense against Crixian shields," she replied, taking another sip of cold coffee. "Every day we delay, another colony might end up like New Eden." The simulation completed its run, showing a 78% success rate. Olivia frowned. Not good enough. Crixion's shield technology had made their warships nearly invulnerable to human weapons. 3 more outer colonies had fallen in the past months, their destruction quick and merciless. Olivia's computer chimed with an incoming call. Admiral Clayton's stern face appeared on screen. "Doctor, please tell me you have good news." "We're close, Admiral. The Martinez particle shows promise. In simulations, it disrupts the energy pattern of Crixion shields, creating weak points we can target." Clayton nodded. "How soon can you have a working prototype?" 2 weeks, maybe less if I can solve the stability issue." "Make it 1 week. The Security Council is breathing down my neck for results." Clayton's expression softened slightly. "And Olivia? Get some sleep. We need that brain of yours functioning." After the call ended, Olivia slumped in her chair. 1 week to perfect a technology that should take months. But she understood the urgency. The Crixians believed their technological advantage made them unbeatable. Humanity needed to prove them wrong. Across the solar system, on the Mars Military Academy, Major William Patel walked between rows of soldiers in training. Once a quiet tactical officer, Patel had emerged as humanity's most brilliant military strategist. Now he trained Earth's defenders in the art of fighting a technologically superior enemy. "Conventional warfare won't win this fight," he told the attentive faces before him. "The Crixians outgun us. Their ships are faster. Their shields are stronger. But they have weaknesses." He activated a hologram showing Crixian ship formations from previous battles. "They're predictable. Thousands of years of military dominance has made them arrogant. They follow the same tactics in every engagement because those tactics have always worked for them." A young lieutenant raised her hand. "But sir, if we can't penetrate their shields, what good is knowing their tactics?" Patel smiled grimly. "Because Dr. Martinez is working on solving the shield problem. When she succeeds, not if but when, we need to be ready to exploit every advantage. The Crixians expect us to fight conventionally and lose. Instead, we'll fight unconventionally and win." He switched the hologram to show Earth's new fleet under construction. The ships were smaller than Crixian vessels but designed with new principles, based on what they'd learned from studying Crixian technology. Remember, humans have something the Crixians don't understand: adaptability. Throughout our history, we've faced superior forces and found ways to defeat them. That's what we'll do, again. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Commander Diana Ross and her team operated in enemy territory. Their stealth ship, the Shadow, was humanity's most advanced reconnaissance vessel, equipped with technology that masked its presence from Crixian sensors. Diana watched through the view screen as a massive Crixian cruiser passed by, oblivious to their presence. Her 5-person team had spent weeks gathering intelligence on Crixian fleet movements and communications. "Recording another transmission, Commander," whispered Luis Rivera, her communications specialist. "It's between their flagship and what appears to be their high command." Diana moved to his station. "Can you decode it?" "Already done. They're discussing human resistance." Luis looked up with a slight smile. "They seem confused by our tactics in the Titan skirmish last week." The Titan skirmish had been humanity's first small victory. A handful of Earth ships had used the moon's atmosphere to conceal themselves, then ambushed a Crixian patrol. The damage inflicted wasn't significant, but it marked the first time human weapons had any effect on Crixian vessels. "Play the transmission," Diana ordered. The translated voice of a Crixian commander filled the small bridge. "These humans are behaving irrationally. They attack with inferior weapons and retreat before we can destroy them. There is no logic to their actions." Another voice, deeper and more authoritative, responded. "They are emotional primitives, nothing more. Their resistance is disorganized and will collapse when we strike their main colonies. Continue as planned." Diana exchanged looks with her crew. "They still don't understand what they've started," she said quietly. "That's good. Transmit everything back to Command Priority Channel." Back on Earth, President Harold Bennett stood before an audience of thousands. Behind him stretched the newly christened warships of Earth's first battle fleet. Though smaller, In number than the Crixian Armada, each vessel incorporated hard-won knowledge from months of analyzing Crixian technology. 6 months ago, Bennett began, his voice carried across the gathering and to billions watching across human settlements. An unprovoked attack destroyed New Eden Colony. Many asked how we could fight an enemy with technology centuries beyond our own. He gestured to the ships behind him. This is our answer. These vessels represent the greatest engineering achievement in human history, built not just with steel and circuits, but with determination and ingenuity. The centerpiece of the fleet, the battleship Defiance, gleamed in the sunlight. Captain Susan Wright had been promoted to fleet commander after her tireless efforts to warn Earth before the New Eden attack. The Crixian Empire believes itself invincible, Bennett continued. They see our peaceful nature as weakness. They believe that because we preferred cooperation, we are incapable of defending ourselves. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. They thought us weak because we sought peace. The president's voice hardened. They will learn that those who value peace most know best how to wage war. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Clayton met with Captain Wright and Major Patel in a secure room beneath the platform. Martinez has done it, Clayton said without preamble. The particle weapon is ready for deployment. Initial tests show it can create a temporary breach in Crixian shields. Wright studied the technical specifications. This changes everything. We can hit them now. Not just hit them, Patel added. Hurt them. The fleet is ready and I've trained our people in the new tactics. The Crixians expect us to cower in our solar system, waiting for them to pick us off one by one. Clayton nodded. Then we'll do the unexpected. Intelligence shows their forward base in the Arcturus system is lightly defended. They're using it to stage attacks on our outer colonies. He looked at each of them in turn. It's time we showed the Crixian Empire exactly what humanity is capable of when pushed too far. As they finalized the battle plans, in her lab, Dr. Martinez watched her creation being loaded onto the first warships. The Martinez particle generators were smaller than she'd hoped, with limited range and duration. But they would work. She thought of her brother, who had died on New Eden, and of all the other lives lost. This is for them, she whispered, as the last generator was secured for transport. The Crixians wanted war, now they'll get one. Captain Eric Donovan stood on the bridge of the newly christened battleship Vengeance, watching the swirling gases of the Arcturus Nebula through the main view screen. His ship, along with 5 others, had been hiding in the nebula for 3 days, waiting for the Crixian supply fleet. Sensors detecting multiple warp signatures, Captain, reported his tactical officer Lisa Chen. Crixian energy patterns confirmed. 8 vessels approaching at high speed. Eric straightened his uniform. This would be the first true test of the Martinez particle technology in actual combat. Simulations and tests were one thing. Facing the enemy was another. Battle stations, he ordered calmly. Signal the other ships to maintain position. Remember the plan, we wait until they're fully committed before we strike. Throughout the ship, crew members rushed to their positions. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Alan Cooper monitored the experimental Martinez particle generator. The device hummed with energy, its core glowing with an eerie blue light. Martinez particle generator at full capacity, Alan reported through the comm. But sir, I must remind you it's only good for 3, maybe 4 bursts before it needs to recharge. Understood, Chief. We'll make them count. On the view screen, the Crixian vessels came into view. They moved with predatory grace, their dark hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The lead ship was nearly twice the size of the Vengeance. They haven't detected us yet, Lisa said, her voice tense. The nebula is masking our presence, just as Major Patel predicted. Eric nodded. William Patel's unconventional tactics were about to be put to the test. Rather than engaging the technologically superior Crixians head-on, the human fleet would use the environment to their advantage. Weapons status? All missile bays loaded. Point defense lasers charged. Martinez particle emitter ready to fire. On your command. Eric watched as the Crixian ships moved deeper into the nebula, following the route to their forward base. Just a little closer. Now, all ships, Execute attack pattern Patel 3. The human vessels burst from their hiding places, accelerating toward the surprised Crixian fleet. The Vengeance led the charge, its engines burning hot as it closed. On the lead Crixian cruiser, target their flagship and fire the Martinez particle. A pulse of blue energy shot from the Vengeance, striking the Crixian ship's shields. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like ice cracking on a frozen lake, visible fissures appeared in the enemy's energy barrier. Shield disruption successful, firing main weapons. Missiles and energy beams from all 6 human ships converged on the weakened points in the Crixian defenses. For the first time in the war, human weapons bit deep into Crixian armor. The Crixian ships, caught off guard, struggled to form a defensive formation. They had never expected humans to attack them directly, much less with weapons that could penetrate. "Their shields, they're returning fire," Lisa shouted. The bridge shook as Crixian energy weapons struck the Vengeance. Damage reports flooded in, but the human ship held together. Fire second Martinez burst. Target their second largest vessel. Another blue pulse shot out, creating weaknesses in another enemy ship's defenses. The battle raged for nearly an hour, with human vessels darting in and out of the nebula clouds, striking where Crixian shields were weakened, then retreating before the aliens could bring their superior firepower to bear. When it was over, 3 Crixian ships had been destroyed, and 2 more severely damaged. The remaining 3 had retreated, jumping to faster-than-light speed to escape. The human fleet had lost 1 ship, the Dauntless, and all others had sustained damage. But they had won. For the first time, humanity had defeated the Crixians in direct combat. "Send word to Earth Command," Eric ordered, even as damage control teams worked to repair the Vengeance. The Martinez particle works. Arcturus operation successful. Thousands of light years away, Ambassador Natalie Chen sat across from the reptilian leader of the Saurians, a species that had long suffered under Crixian expansion. The meeting took place on neutral ground, a space station at the edge of Saurian territory. "The Crixians have taken 3 of our outer worlds in the past decade," said Mord Sith, the Saurian leader. "We lack the military strength to oppose them directly." Natalie nodded sympathetically. "Earth understands your position. The Crixians believed us too weak to fight back as well. They were wrong." She activated a holographic projector that showed the recent battle at Arcturus. The Saurian's vertical pupils widened as he watched Crixian ships his people had thought invincible, destroyed by human weapons. "This is genuine?" he asked, his forked tongue flicking out in excitement. "Completely. We've developed technology that can penetrate their shields. But we need allies, Ambassador Mordsith. The Crixians have dominated this sector for too long because they keep all potential opposition divided." The Saurian leader studied her with calculating eyes. "What exactly do you propose?" "A coalition. Not just Saurians and humans, but all species, threatened by Crixian expansion. Together we can stand against them. Separately they will pick us off one by one." After hours of discussion, the Saurian leader agreed to join what would become known as the Galactic Coalition. In the following weeks, Natalie traveled to 5 other worlds, showing the Arcturus battle footage and building an alliance that would provide resources, intelligence, and eventually military support to humanity's war effort. Meanwhile, in the Great Hall of the Crixian High Command, High Commander Vexilor faced an unprecedented situation. Explaining a defeat to the Supreme Council. "How is this possible?" demanded the eldest council member, her 6 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. "These humans are primitives. Their technology was centuries behind ours when we first encountered them." Vexilor struggled to maintain his composure. "They have adapted more quickly than anticipated. Somehow, they've developed a method to disrupt our shield harmonics temporarily." "Unacceptable," another council member hissed. "These humans must be taught their place in the galactic order. Their resistance must be crushed completely, or other species might be inspired to rebel." Vexilor bowed his head. "I have already summoned our most decorated fleet commander. Draxel is on his way from the outer territories with his elite armada." At the mention of Draxel, the council chamber grew quiet. Commander Draxel was legendary even among the Crixians, a warrior who had never lost a battle in 3 centuries. of service. He brings the Starfall weapon, Vexilor added. One demonstration should be sufficient to break the humans' will to fight. The council members exchanged looks of grim satisfaction. The Starfall was the Crixian Empire's most devastating weapon, capable of tearing a planet's atmosphere away in minutes. It had been used only twice in their history, both times ending rebellions instantly. Very well, said the head counselor. Let Draxel handle these humans. Their minor victory will soon be forgotten when they see the true might of the Crixian Empire. Back on Earth, the news of the Arcturus victory spread like wildfire. For the first time since the war began, people celebrated in the streets. Humanity had proven it could fight back. In a secure briefing room, Admiral Clayton showed Fleet Commander Susan Wright and Major Patel the intelligence reports from Diana Ross's covert team. The Crixians are sending their most fearsome commander, along with something called the Starfall weapon, Clayton said gravely. We don't know exactly what it is, but our spies indicate it's some kind of planet killer. Susan studied the reports. They'll target a civilian population. That's their pattern. They don't just want military victories, they want to terrorize us into submission. Europa Colony is the most likely target, Patel said, pointing to the settlement on Jupiter's moon. It's strategically valuable but not heavily defended. Clayton nodded. We need to prepare for their arrival, and we need a plan to deal with this Starfall weapon before they can use it. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Phillips, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. Sir, I have an idea, but it's a long shot and whoever goes won't be coming back. All eyes turned to the young officer as he outlined his desperate plan. 3 years had passed since the war began. The manufacturing plants of Earth and its colonies worked day and night, turning out ships and weapons designed specifically to counter Crixian technology. What had started as desperate defense had evolved into a coordinated war effort spanning multiple star systems. Dr. Olivia Martinez stood in her new laboratory aboard the space station Prometheus, orbiting Jupiter. The lab was 10 times the size of her original workspace on Earth, with hundreds of scientists and engineers working under her direction. The adaptive shielding is ready for final testing, said her deputy, Dr. Jason Wells. If it works as projected, our ships will be able to absorb Crixian energy weapons and grow stronger with each hit. Olivia studied the complex equations floating in the holographic display. After years of studying Crixian technology, humans had not only caught up in some areas but had begun to innovate beyond what the aliens had achieved. Begin the test, she ordered. In the testing chamber, a miniature version of the shield generator activated around a small drone. A weapons array fired Crixian-style energy beams at the drone. The first shot caused the shield to flicker, but it held. The second shot hit, and remarkably the shield glowed brighter. By the 5th shot, the energy beams were bouncing off completely. It works, Jason whispered in awe. The shield is learning from each attack and adapting its frequency. Olivia allowed herself a small smile. Prepare the technology for installation. On the new flagship Redemption, Admiral Wright needs every advantage for the coming offensive. Across the solar system, human society had transformed. Children who had been in school when the war started were now enlisting in the Earth Alliance forces. Civilian industries had converted to military production. The entire economy focused on one goal: survival. Yet despite the horror of war, humanity had advanced more in these 3 years than in the previous 50. The pressure of fighting a technologically superior enemy had forced innovations in propulsion, energy weapons, medicine, and computing. On the newly constructed flagship Redemption, Admiral Susan Wright reviewed the latest intelligence reports from the front lines. Once the captain of a single ship, she now commanded the largest human battle group ever assembled. The Galactic Coalition forces have engaged Crixian outposts in the Rigel sector, reported her intelligence officer, Commander Layla Peterson. The Saurians and Delvians have contributed 40 ships to the effort. Susan nodded. What had begun as Ambassador Chen's desperate diplomacy had grown into a true alliance. Species that had once feared the Crixians now actively fought alongside humanity. And what about the Crixian homeworlds? Has Commander Ross's team sent new intelligence? Layla handed her a datapad. They've managed to penetrate deeper into Crixian space than ever before. The news is interesting. It seems the Crixian Empire is showing signs of internal strain. The report detailed growing dissent within Crixian society. A moderate faction led by Sub-Commander Talrin had begun questioning the wisdom of the war, suggesting that humans had been underestimated and that a negotiated peace might be necessary. They never expected the war to last this long, Susan said. They thought we'd surrender after they used the Starfall weapon. The mention of Starfall brought a somber mood to the bridge. The Crixians had attempted to use the planet-killer weapon against the Europa colony 1 year earlier. It would have succeeded if not for Lieutenant Commander Ryan Phillips and his volunteer squad. In what was now legendary throughout the Alliance, Phillips and a dozen Special Forces soldiers had used a captured Crixian shuttle to approach Draxel's flagship undetected. While they couldn't hope to defeat the massive vessel in combat, they had managed to infiltrate it and sabotage the Starfall weapon before it could fire. None of the squad had survived, but they had sent critical tactical data back to Alliance headquarters before their final stand. The sacrifice of Phillips and his team had saved millions of lives and provided invaluable intelligence on Crixian ship layouts and security systems. "We're almost ready for the Proxima Centauri operation," Susan said, returning to the present. "General Patel's strategy is our best chance to split their main fleet and deliver a decisive blow." William Patel, now a general and the Alliance's chief strategist, had developed a bold plan to lure the main Crixian fleet into a trap. After 3 years of studying Crixian tactics, he had identified predictable patterns in their responses to certain situations. In his office on Mars, General Patel briefed his staff on the final details of the operation. The Crixians always respond to threats to their supply lines with overwhelming force, he explained, pointing to a holographic map of the Proxima Centauri system. "We'll make them believe we're targeting their main supply depot with a small raiding force. Their doctrine requires them to send at least 60% of their available ships to respond." A young officer raised her hand. "But sir, even with our new technology, we can't defeat 60% of the Crixian fleet in direct combat." Patel smiled. "We won't be fighting them directly. When they commit their forces to Proxima Centauri, they'll split their formation to surround what they think is our raiding party. That's when our main fleet hiding in the system's asteroid belt will strike." On the Crixian command world, High Commander Vexilor faced growing pressure from the Supreme Council. The war that was supposed to last months had stretched into years, draining resources and testing the Empire's resolve. "The humans continue to defy expectations," said Council Elder Zilthar. "Not only have they developed countermeasures to our technology, but they've united other species against us. Our borders are threatened for the first time in millennia." Vexilor could not deny the seriousness of the situation. "The humans are more resourceful than we anticipated, but they remain technologically inferior overall. Their defeat is inevitable, if perhaps taking longer than expected." "And what of Sub-Commander Talrin's peace faction?" another counselor asked. "Their support grows daily, even among our military ranks." "Talrin is a coward," Vexilor hissed. "Those who speak of peace with these humans undermine our Empire's strength. I have ordered his arrest for sedition." As the council meeting concluded, Vexilor received an urgent communication. Alliance ships had been detected near the Proxima Centauri supply depot. Following established doctrine, he immediately ordered the nearest battle group, nearly 300 ships, to respond and crush the human raiders. "This may be the opportunity we've waited for," he told Fleet Commander Draxel. "Draw their ships into battle and annihilate them. Show no mercy." Draxel, still smarting from the sabotage of his Starfall weapon, eagerly accepted the mission. His flagship led the massive Crixian armada toward Proxima Centauri, determined to finally break the human resistance. What neither Vexilor nor Draxel realized was that they were following a script written by William Patel, heading directly into the greatest trap in military history. As the Crixian fleet approached Proxima Centauri, Admiral Susan Wright gave the order that the Alliance had prepared 3 years for all ships, prepare to execute Operation Turning Point. For Earth, for New Eden, for all who've fallen. Today we change the course of this war. High Commander Vexler paced the command center of the Crixian capital world, his 6 eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the disastrous battle at Proxima Centauri. What had begun as a simple operation to crush human raiders had turned into the worst defeat in Crixian military history. General Patel's trap had worked perfectly. When the Crixian fleet split its formation to surround what they thought was a small human raiding party, the main Alliance fleet emerged from hiding in the asteroid belt. Using the revolutionary tactics developed over years of study, the human vessels had divided the Crixian formation and systematically destroyed nearly half their ships. "This cannot stand," Vexler hissed to his remaining council members. "If news of this defeat spreads, every subjugated species in the Empire will rise against us." "What do you propose, High Commander?" asked one of the elders, her voice trembling slightly. For the first time in living memory, fear had entered the council chambers. Vexler's expression darkened. "We will strike at the heart of humanity. I am ordering all remaining ships to converge on the human homeworld. We will destroy Earth itself and break their will once and for all." Even the council members seemed shocked by this declaration. "But High Commander, that would require leaving our own territories undefended. The coalition forces would—" "I care not!" Vexler slammed his fist on the table. "The humans have humiliated our empire for the last time. Either we crush them now or our 3,000 years of dominance ends. Are you prepared for that alternative?" Silence fell over the council chamber. One by one, the elders nodded their agreement. The order was given. Every available Crixian warship would converge on Earth for one final, overwhelming assault. On Earth, preparations for the inevitable Crixian counterattack had been underway for months. Chief Engineer Samuel Kelly had designed an orbital defense grid unlike anything ever built. Thousands of automated defense platforms surrounded the planet, each equipped with Martinez particle emitters and adaptive shielding. "The grid is at full capacity," Sam reported to Admiral Clayton at Earth Defense Command. "If they come, when they come, they'll face more firepower than any fleet in history." Clayton nodded grimly. "Good work, Kelly. Because according to Commander Ross's intelligence, they're coming with everything they have." Diana Ross's stealth team had intercepted the Crixian battle plans. After years operating behind enemy lines, her team had penetrated deeper than ever into Crixian space. "Vexler is desperate," Diana's report stated. "He's committing every ship to this attack, leaving even their homeworlds vulnerable. This is their final gamble." Admiral Susan Wright brought the Redemption and the main human fleet back to Earth to prepare for the coming battle. The ships that had fought at Proxima Centauri were damaged, but determined. Repair crews worked around the clock to prepare them for what everyone knew would be the decisive engagement of the war. "This is what we've been fighting for," Susan told her captains in a fleet-wide address. "Everything we've learned, every technology we've developed, every alliance we've forged, it all comes down to this moment. Humanity will either stand or fall in the next battle." The Galactic Coalition sent every ship they could spare. Saurian, dreadnoughts, sleek Delvian cruisers, and vessels from a dozen other species joined the human fleet in Earth orbit. What had begun as humanity's lone struggle had become a fight for freedom for many races. Ambassador Natalie Chen, who had built the coalition from nothing, watched the Allied ships arrive with pride and apprehension. "Who would have thought," she said to President Bennett as they stood in the observation lounge of Earth Defense Command, "that the Crixians' aggression would unite the galaxy against them?" Bennett's reply was interrupted by the blaring of alarms. On every screen and holographic display, the same message flashed. Massive warp signatures detected. Crixian fleet approaching. The battle for Earth had begun. Over the next 12 hours, the largest space battle in known galactic history unfolded. In Earth's orbit, over 800 Crixian warships, led by Vexler's massive command ship, emerged from faster-than-light travel and immediately began their assault. They faced 500 coalition vessels and Earth's defense grid, the void between them filled with energy beams, missiles, and fighter craft. Ships on both sides exploded into brief, silent flowers of flame as the battle raged across 1,000,000 kilometers of space. Aboard the Redemption, Admiral Wright coordinated the human defense. "Keep our forces concentrated," she ordered as her tactical officers reported Crixian movements. "Don't let them split our formation." The adaptive shielding proved its worth, growing stronger with each Crixian attack. The Martinez particle weapons created weaknesses in enemy defenses that coalition ships exploited with devastating effect. But the Crixians had numbers on their side, and the sheer volume of their assault began to overwhelm sections of the defense. Several defense platforms went dark. Coalition ships, despite their advanced technology, succumbed to concentrated Crixian fire. "Admiral," reported Commander Peterson, "Vexler's command ship is pushing through Sector 7. They're trying to reach low Earth orbit." Susan studied the tactical display. If the Crixians established a position in low orbit, they could bombard Earth's surface directly. "We need to stop that command ship," she said. "Prepare a boarding team." Captain Laura Baldwin volunteered to lead the mission. A veteran of dozens of engagements, she had a personal score to settle with the Crixians. Her brother had been among those killed on New Eden. "My team can do this, Admiral," she said, her expression resolute. "We've studied their command ship layouts extensively. If we can reach Vexler, we can end this." Susan gave the authorization. Using a modified stealth shuttle developed from technology Diana Ross's team had brought back, Laura and 20 Special Forces soldiers launched from the Redemption toward the massive Crixian flagship. The shuttle's advanced stealth systems, combined with the chaos of battle, allowed them to approach undetected. They docked with the command ship and fought their way through its corridors, facing fierce resistance from Crixian warriors. By the time they reached the command center, only Laura and 5 of her team remained. They breached the doors to find High Commander Vexler directing the assault on Earth. Vexler turned, his 6 eyes widening in shock at the sight of human soldiers in his command center. "Impossible," he hissed. Laura stepped forward, her weapon aimed at the Crixian leader. "Surrender, High Commander. Order your fleet to stand down." Vexler laughed, a harsh clicking sound. "You think the presence of a few humans will make me surrender? This is the final battle for your species. Now my ships prepare to bombard your cities into dust." "Look outside, Commander," Laura said, gesturing to the viewports showing the battle. "Your fleet is being decimated. The coalition grows stronger every day. This war is over. You've lost." "I will never surrender to primitives," Vexler snarled. "You humans should have accepted your place in the Galactic Order." Laura stepped closer, her eyes hardening. "We didn't start this war, but by God, we're going to finish it." The battle continued for another hour before the Crixian command channels broadcast an unexpected message. High Commander Vexler had been captured, and control of the fleet had passed to Sub-Commander Talrin, leader of the moderate faction. Talrin immediately ordered all Crixian ships to cease fire and withdraw to defensive positions. Within minutes, the shooting stopped, leaving dead and disabled ships floating in Earth's orbit. 5 years later, a memorial ceremony took place on the rebuilt New Eden colony. The settlement, once reduced to ash, now thrived with new buildings and hopeful colonists. At its center stood a monument to those lost in what history now called the Galactic War. Admiral Susan Wright, now head of the Earth Alliance, unveiled the final inscription on the monument. It read, "We sought the stars in peace, but learned to defend them in war. Never again will the light of human potential be threatened with extinction." As she spoke to the gathered crowd about sacrifice and courage, a small delegation of Crixians watched from the back. They were the first generation of their species to visit Earth not as conquerors, but as diplomatic guests, part of the new galactic order that had emerged from the conflict. Among them, a young Crixian diplomat named Zexor, Vexler's own son, reflected on how his people's greatest mistake had been underestimating humanity. It was a lesson the galaxy would not soon forget.